and anybody who's missed the start or whatever will also get a link to recording. So good morning, oh it's good afternoon everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the second in my by now legendary series of lunchtime webinars. So I don't think either of you joined me yesterday. I had an idea I think on Monday, in response to the challenges that we're facing at the moment, to run a webinar on using your customer data to find more sales opportunities, which I ran yesterday. And while I was actually running it, I had my post-it note and my pen, my legendary pen, Shona, and I was frantically writing down, oh, but we need to talk about this, and we need to talk about this, and we need to talk about that. So there's going to be every day at 12:30, because believe it or not, I have nowhere else to be other than with you guys. Every day at 12:30. But as I say, having signed up once, you'll get the link, so you'll be able to see on YouTube. You'll be able to see all the other videos as well if you can't participate in person. So thank you to those of you who joined me live, and thank you to anybody who's watching the recording. Fantastic to have you here. If you joined earlier, you might have seen my card I put up, which is just an inspiration I had yesterday when I was commenting on somebody else's thread on Facebook, which was about working on your business, and how absolutely imperative it is that even if you're sitting there not knowing what else to do, the one thing to do is to work on your business. And so that's kind of where this is all kind of coming from. Yes, I think to a certain extent we're kind of making some of it up as we go along. I think some of us have had plans for what we do if we can't do other things, but even so, I think the level and the depth to which this is actually going now, I don't think anybody will really have planned for absolutely everything that might be about to hit us. So to a certain extent, we're kind of making it up as we go along. So I just feel that this is, there's stuff that we can be doing, there's stuff that we can be doing to just make our businesses a bit more resilient in terms of, you know, who our customers and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, let's do it, let's get it out there. So hopefully you can all see the screen I'm sharing at the moment. That would be good. So yeah, so yesterday I did use your customer data to find more sales. So the recording for that is available if you didn't watch it. Today, getting clear on your ideal customer. Tomorrow, email marketing. So having identified who you need to be talking to, there's lots of ways, as we will discuss, of getting information out there. But email marketing was certainly something that people were interested in. On Monday, I want to do getting to grips with your processes, which doesn't sound very exciting, but it's absolutely key. If you're going to have to change your business processes, then that's what we'll be looking at on Monday. Tuesday, content marketing, lead magnets, just how to attract new customers or re-engage existing, or, you know, lapsed customers. That's what I talked about quite a lot yesterday, was getting in front of customers you haven't spoken to for a while. And then Wednesday, introduction to sales process. So that's kind of 6. That takes us through to Wednesday. And then on Thursday, it is a paid workshop, but you know, potentially the people who have been attending these might just find themselves getting the link to that. Customer experience workshop, which is all about your customer journey, which kind of pulls all of that together in one kind of thing. And actually that wasn't really kind of planned. That customer experience workshop has been planned for weeks, and been marketing it for weeks. It went from an actual workshop in Glasgow to online, so that moved on Monday to online. And yeah, so it's always been in the diary, but now everything else is kind of leading up to that as well, because your customer experience, your customer journey is and being customer focused is absolutely essential for the challenges we're facing at the moment. So where are we? Where were we yesterday? Where will we be tomorrow? Well, where are we now? So it's this is about getting you thinking about who you serve, who your best customers are, and it's entirely likely that that has changed. That is now we're now potentially targeting a different group of people than we were before. So we might have fewer of our clients than we had before for all sorts of reasons. They might not be able to trade themselves. I think that's a potential issue for quite a lot of people. They might have customers, but they are not able to trade for whatever reason, or they might be able to trade and not have any customers. It's likely that you might be targeting a slightly different customer profile, just because your offerings changing slightly. We covered different offerings yesterday, so if you want to recap on that, so you might be coming up with new products, new offerings, and you will be serving a different customer base with those products and services, yeah, just trying to maybe attract new customers. Yesterday's thing was all about attracting new customers is expensive and difficult and time consuming. So why not look within your existing customer base first to see what you can do with them? So that was yesterday's theme. Why do we need this concept of an ideal customer? And it's one of those kind of things, and generally people have a bit of a light bulb moment on it. A lot of people, when they first start off in business, and you'll see there the anyone or everyone, you ask them, who you're looking for, what's your ideal customer? And they say, well, it's anyone who, or it's everyone. It's I can sell to everyone, and whilst you maybe can, although generally you can take issue with them if you really want to argue with them. It's not particularly helpful to just be looking for anyone and everyone, because you're not focused. Your messaging, and this is really what this is about. So you'll see there, first of all, content marketing. Apparently my internet connection is unstable. I've just had a message to say that. I think the internet, poor old internet, is going to be struggling with everybody trying to work from home. Content marketing, so your blog, your social media, your website, all the stuff that you're writing and putting out there, needs to have an audience. And the more concentrated that audience is, the more focused you are on who you're speaking to, the better. If you're networking, then obviously that's the consideration as well. When you go networking, you really need to understand who it is you're looking to speak to. If you're going out offline, not happening at the moment, but a lot of us do go networking to actual meetings where we meet people face to face. Remember that? Seems like an eternity ago already. And being able to either identify that person in front of you or be able to describe that person to others, because quite often when we go networking, we might be in a group that refers business to us. So BNI, 4N, all these kind of things, it's as much about looking for people who can find you business. And if you can't describe to those people exactly who you're looking to speak to, you risk two things. One is they don't know, so they don't give you any referrals because they just don't understand who you want to speak to, or they give you duff referrals. They give you referrals which are just not, that don't fit, that are not properly qualified. So it's absolutely essential that you are able to articulate who your ideal client is. If you're paying for advertising in any way, shape, or form, so Facebook, Insta, Google, AdWords, all these kind of things, you will know if you've done it that the smaller your audience, the cheaper it is, and the better the conversion rate's going to be. It's very, very tempting to say, I want to target, everybody in Scotland between the ages of 18 and 75, both genders, etc. That will cost you a lot of money, and you'll get a very low conversion rate. Whereas if you target a much smaller group, you'll pay a lot less, and your sort of, your leads per pound will be much better. And so, as I said, not anyone or everyone, just it's aiming for clarity. It's as our dear friend Karen used to say, it's about sharp, pointy messages going out there, and having that very, very laser sharp focus on a particular person. And the realization, the sudden realization you get when you realize that when you do that, not only do you get those people, but you do get all the people around about them as well. So the idea is that when you're writing that content, you're speaking to that person directly, but equally other people go, well, that's me, you're describing me, you're describing the problem I have in my life, or you're describing the lifestyle I want to have, whatever that may be, and they include themselves in. So you're not cutting people out, you're actually attracting much more. And I read it, I got a fantastic quote which I've actually written out, just I read in an article. The more focused you are, the easier everything becomes, and you tend to attract who you are focused on serving. So be focused and you will attract lots more of them. And you then don't, when we do sales process, and I start talking about the qualification phase of sales process, you're not having to qualify out the rubbish, because the people who are coming to you, the people who are in your funnel, are already the right people. So that's why we need an ideal customer. What is an ideal customer? Well, you can see the description there. I'm not going to read it out to you. I read somewhere else, I think in the same article, it's called the best case scenario. Who's, if you had customers that you just love working with, then it's with all the right attributes. And the other quote I quite liked, or the idea was, you don't really create an avatar, and I always go on about creating avatars, you discover it, you uncover it. Because the more you begin to understand who you're serving, the more this persona reveals itself to it. Some people call it an avatar, some people call it, HubSpot, for example, call it a buyer persona. Google call it a pen portrait. It's all exactly the same thing. It's this description of this ideal customer. And yes, it is based on research and data about existing customers, which we're just about to come to. So if you don't want to call it an avatar, then just call it your ideal customer or your buyer persona or whatever it is. But it is this, you have to get your head around this, it being this one single person. Quick caveat at that point, because you might have more than one avatar in your business. If you serve different kind of communities in entirely different ways. So you might end up having two. I did meet somebody who told me they had 12, which I thought was a little bit excessive. But certainly, you don't necessarily need to be limited to one avatar, but you would write very different content and have a very different strategy for attracting each of them, if that makes sense. So the research, you have to start by understanding who your best customers are. And if you've got a database that you can interrogate, then so much the better. If not, it's going to take you potentially a little bit longer to pull the information together. The next bit is really, how do you define a best customer? Is it simply by sales turnover in terms of ranking, or do you actually look at it by profitability? I do find that sometimes when people do this exercise, they get a bit of an aha moment, because they have a group of customers that they think are their best customers because they're maybe buying a lot, spending a lot. And actually, when they look at the amount of profit they're getting out of those customers, it's not quite such a rosy picture. And I have had one client who has done that piece of work and had a big light bulb moment at that point. So who orders regularly? You probably, the ones that are easy to serve, you probably want to attract more of those. Who fits? So it depends very much on your business. If you've got an e-commerce website, You don't really care, you know, in a lot of ways who those people actually are. They come, they spend their money, they tend to pay up front, they take the goods and they go away. If you are in the sort of if you have the sort of business where you're dealing much more one-to-one with clients, engaging with them, meeting with them, even on Zoom, you want to find clients that are a good fit for your business, that you really can serve, that you enjoy working with. Let's be absolutely honest. You know, if you're a coach or a consultant, and you need to spend a lot of time with these people, you kind of want to get on with them on some level. You don't have to be your best friend, but you have to have like shared values and just have a good rapport. So who fits with your business? And they've got to have the right disposable income. Either way, you know, you are you've got an Aldi shopper or a pound stretcher shopper and a Waitrose shopper. They're not the same person. You need to know which one of those camps that you are in and you are attracting. So you know, who fits in terms of that. They've got to need your products and services. They've got to have the appropriate budget, high or low, wherever you sit, and they've got to just be, particularly as I say, if you're engaging with them, they've got to be your kind of people, yeah, in your tribe. So what do they have in common? What attributes do these people who are your best customers, who pay you on time, all that kind of thing, what do they all have in common? What can you actually look at and reach out and say, these people all have these attributes in common? So the questions to ask, and when I say ask, you might be asking yourself, or you might want to ask them in a perhaps in a conversational way, rather than sitting there with a questionnaire and filling it in. But you want to start profiling them. Are they of a particular age range or gender? Now, in general, you know, you might say, well, it doesn't really matter. In general, it's helpful if you just kind of pick a gender to kind of focus on. And then when we can kind of come and look at some of the other attributes, then you may suddenly say, oh, well, actually, it's more of a female I'm attracting rather than a male. What industry are they in? What role do they have in that industry? If you're B2B, and you'll see I'll come back to B2B in a second. So you might want to, you know, you might be wanting to find HR managers in a particular industry or whatever. So because they're the ones that you serve the best, and you know, when you look at your profiling, what keeps them awake at night? Getting to the pain points, and this is B2B or B2C, getting them to share with you what it is that worries them, so that you can then start to understand how to address those needs. What are their goals and aspirations on a bit more on the positive side? What sort of people are they? What are they wanting to do? Are they wanting to have an easier life in business, or are they wanting to you know, do more in their social life? Whatever it is that they want, you know, try and get a sense of where they'd like to be. And I've rephrased this as genie wish, because somebody else said magic wand. If you could grant them in whatever sphere you're working in, and I really like this one. I only learned this one yesterday myself, and I said that for me it was a light bulb moment. You could grant them anything that is in your gift, to be able to sort of say, well, if we work together, and you work in a particular field, what is your absolute dream outcome that we could get? And just get them to really dream about that, which I really liked. I really liked that one. And I'm going to be developing that one a little bit more myself, in terms of how to kind of elicit that out of people. You'll notice there I said, are you B2B? And that is because I went on a course that somebody else was running, and I decided not to take issue with it. And he started talking about ideal customer avatars in terms of company profiling. Is it VAT registered? And all this kind of thing. And I thought, that's not my understanding of this process, because if I'm going out and attracting people, then the person is not VAT registered. The person is a living, breathing person who's going to be reading my content or attending the networking event or whatever. Those kind of attributes, you can certainly start to do market research to get yourself to understand particular attributes of the people you're targeting. But, and I always say this when I do CRM training as well, you're not building a relationship with a company, you're building a relationship with the people in the company. So to me, that's the whole thing. It doesn't matter whether it's B2B or B2C. The questions are slightly different because you're talking about their goals and aspirations for their business rather than their personal goals, potentially, depending on if you're a life coach, it might be the same. But hopefully that kind of makes that clear, that this is about building relationships with people and speaking to people, whether that's through social media or your website, but they're still people. A building with a flagpole outside does not respond to your email or your call. A person does. So that's my kind of take on whether it's B2B or B2C. What are their hobbies or interests? Let's go deeper. Let's try and really, really understand. I'm just wondering whether, well, I've got a chat message. Right, Shona's just saying she's been chucked out. Hopefully she's back in now. Looks like she's back in. Going deeper into this person, you know, we want to actually start to flesh them out now, so that you can really start to imagine this person and imagine this person in their daily life. You know, from the moment they get up in the morning to the moment they go to bed at night. We'll leave the rest of it. We'll draw the curtains on the rest of that, because we want to know what makes them tick all the way through. Again, it doesn't matter if they're B2B, doesn't matter. So what do they like doing? Do they like windsurfing or mountain biking or macrame? Does anybody still do macrame? Whatever it is, try and get an idea. And it doesn't really, almost doesn't really matter, because obviously in terms of your client base, there'll be thousands, you know, hundreds of people, and they'll all do different things. This is just about imagining this person in their daily life. You know, they like dog walk. They've got a dog and they take the dog for a walk. They've got kids. They spend their time ferrying their kids around, which will come relevant at some point. So, and they might not have time for any of their own interests. You know, what do they watch on TV? Do they watch TV? Do they watch Netflix? Do they go to the, no, they don't go to the cinema anymore. They watch Netflix. All of that kind of thing. Do they love a box set? Do they, you know, will they sit and binge watch a box set? All that kind of thing. Flesh it out. Get more and more into the skin of this person. You're now creating a composite person, and it doesn't really matter. Just give them a persona. Give them a thing, you know, that they like doing. What are their values? Are they very family orientated? Is that really, really important to them? If you're targeting, was my avatar is between 35 and 45 with children. Her children are more important than anything else. If she wants to go to a school concert, she wants to be able to go to the school concert, all that kind of thing. Those are the things that burn deep inside them, that if you understand that, you can start to be giving them solutions that, oh, I'm flashing again. Yes, I will. Yes, I will, Susan. Yes, no problem. I will send you the links to all of those. So where was I? Yeah, so where do they hang out? Oh, this is a good one. So where they actually hang out in terms of physically, because actually knowing where they hang out, nobody's hanging out very much at the moment, but we will get through this and people will be hanging out again. You know, where do they spend their time? Is it at the gym? What networking events do they go to? What groups are they in? What social media platforms do they use? Are they a LinkedIn person or an Instagram person or a Facebook person? And again, if you're going to be spending money on advertising, you need to know that. If you're going to be spending time on social media, you need to know that, because you need to be where they are. Are they techie? You know, if you're going to be targeting them through these platforms and things, you know, is that what they do? Do they never go anywhere without their phone, which is pretty much most people these days? But then if you have an older demographic, I do keep reading on people on Facebook who are trying to get their parents to use Skype. It's hilarious. It's not really. It's a shame, but trying to get oh, we've got a new person joining. Trying to get people, you know, your older relatives to use tech is a challenge. But if your demographic is older, and one of my clients, their demographic is very old and they still use the telephone, although that may start to change. And the when there is, you know, once we start thinking about where these people hang out, so supposing it's LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, there are definite times for contacting people, you know, for reaching out. I've said it several times yesterday, once deliberately and a couple of times by accident. If somebody's a commuter by train, so your avatar, you've decided that they work, again, cast your mind forward several months when people are commuting again, and they spend their time on a train every morning going into Paddington or Glasgow Central or wherever it is. They read stuff on LinkedIn as they're on their train journey, and they do that on the way home. It's just unbelievable, but they will not be reading stuff during their working day when they're busy doing other things. So yes, you know, targeting people has got to be about the when as well as everything else. So knowing when they're going to be on LinkedIn or Facebook. You know, I always say when you're doing this content marketing piece and people are doing their research, and we're going to come to this inbound marketing bit at the end, when they're doing their research to buy stuff, they're sitting with Netflix on, and maybe it's their partner that's more into the thing than them. So it might be, you know, it might be doing dancing on ice or something, and their partner's sitting there, and they think, oh, so they get their iPad out and they're just sitting there, and they do this whether or not it's business to business or business to consumer. So they might be searching for a holiday or a new car. They might equally on a Sunday night be thinking about a business issue. So cast your, you know, take away any sort of prejudices you have. Sending out material into the LinkedIn world on a Sunday evening could well be a really good time to actually do it. Your website obviously is more static, so as long as your search engine optimization is correct for the right keywords, and if you know all of this stuff, you can get your keywording a lot better. Then they'll find it because Google will find it. But the when is incredibly important. Also, in terms of networking, you know, physical networking, when we do that again, you know, there are certain demographics that go out at certain times of the day, and you won't get the woman between 35 and 45 who has kids for early morning networking or evening networking. They just won't be there. So knowing exactly who your avatar is and how they behave is crucial, absolutely crucial. So this is the bit I'm coming on to. So this is a HubSpot picture of the buyer's journey. So how do we buy now? How do we all buy? We all buy And this is even more so now, and this is why the time is right for rethinking your ideal customer avatar. Your ideal customer avatar now is sitting in their home office or sitting at home. They are pretty much trapped at home. It's going to get worse, apparently. They are on their laptop, their phone, and their iPad. And if it's their phone, I do talk about when they're out and about. It doesn't apply anymore. But people do searching for stuff when they're actually out shopping. But they're going to be sitting at home, browsing the web, endlessly now. And we all buy that way now. We all buy for anything more than a pint of milk. We all go online and we look for stuff and we search for stuff and we search review websites, so TripAdvisor and those things. If they're relevant to your business, then obviously that's a consideration. But other than that, they're just using Google to find things. And the thing is that they type in questions. And one of the days, I can't remember what day it is, I'm doing content marketing. We'll cover this. And it's this long tail keyword stuff where people are actually typing in a sort of a question. They don't tend to, I do because it's the way I've always done it. I tend to type in a search term with words in it. Most people now write out a question. And so you need to know what questions they're asking and then build that into your content, because content is king. So that Google will find your stuff, your blog, your website, your video on YouTube. So keywords and hashtags are, yes, they're absolutely imperative as well. But just bear in mind that people are typing these long questions into Google and search. So that I think that might be Tuesday. I can't remember if it's Monday or Tuesday now. I'll go back to that slide in a minute. And that's how our clients behave. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. That's what our clients are doing. And they are doing it for business problems as well as trying to find the nearest holiday or trying to find a solution to a particular problem, like searching for paracetamol or Lurol or whatever. Social proof is is this thing of just when they can find you and they can see you and feel you and touch you, then they feel, in the internet world, that helps to build trust. And the thing is that this now happens much earlier in the process, before we know who they are. So if you look at the thing at the bottom, the buyer realizes they have got a business issue or a problem that they need to have resolved. They're aware of the problem and they start Googling and on LinkedIn and all these kind of things at this particular time of day that we've already talked about. And then they see different options and they're evaluating you. You don't know who they are. The old sales process was they might find your website and they'd immediately phone you up. And I don't know about you, but my phone inquiries now, and for many years, I've been dwindling. People go away and squirrel away and find you. And I did a tourism event in Stirling and talked to a self-catering accommodation owner, and he said, nobody ever rings me up anymore. They just book. Or more to the point, they don't book, which is the problem. So people go away, we do it ourselves, we evaluate all the different options, and we look for websites and articles and blogs and things that resonate with us, that we think, that's me, they're talking to me, they understand me, they understand my problem. And this is where the avatar comes in. This is this bit of being really clear who that person is, what they look like, how they act, where they are, all that kind of thing. Having that content I should have said the right content to the right place at the right time. So where they are on the buyer's journey, and where they are hanging out at the right time. You can, when we talk about lead magnets, which I think is Tuesday as well, content management and content marketing and lead magnets, you can start to build a list. So you can put stuff out to sort of say, here's an infographic which is all about the problem you have. And they say, oh yes, I have that problem. And they will consent to give you their email address in return for that piece of content. You can't ask for much more. I do occasionally sometimes see you click on something and they've got a enormous long sort of form to fill in, and you think, no, I'm really not that interested in giving you everything except my shoe size at this particular point, so I'll just decline, thank you very much. Whereas if you just ask them for their email and nothing else, you're likely they're likely to want the content, and most of us have got an email address that we use for that sort of thing. So you might not get their proper business email address. Just bear that in mind. So your challenge is to go through your customer list, to find out what the great customers that you have in your customer list have in common. What makes them great customers. Somebody's just joined, so you will get the recording, so you can go back and start at the beginning. Talk to clients if possible, and as I said, I don't necessarily mean that you sit there with a clipboard interrogating them or send them a questionnaire. It's much more about just getting to know the good clients and finding out more and more about them and what makes them tick. And do your own research. The other thing that is really worth doing, hang out where they hang out. So, and listen, what do you hear? So if you're in a Facebook group with them, what's the chat? You know, what are they talking about? What are they asking? What's keeping them awake at night? That's actually a really good way to find out what makes your customer avatar tick. And the same goes for in-person networking. You'll just hear what the chat is, and that's a fabulous way of just getting to know what's going on in the world. At the moment, there's no prizes for guessing. We're pretty much all talking about the same thing, but people will have different angles on it. So, as I said at the start, some businesses can't trade for, they're just going to be unable to trade. They're going to be closed down. They're not going to be trading anymore. Some businesses will be looking to change what they do. Some people will be trading in a different way and with different people. Everybody's going to have a slightly different take on it. But this is where going in and hanging out virtually at the moment and listening to the chat is essentially going to help you. So that's essentially me. What I'm going to do at the moment is thank everybody for joining me. I will switch off the recording in a second, and then if anybody does want to chip in, I'll unmute you and you can ask any questions at the moment. Obviously, if anybody watching the recording has any questions, then please do get in touch. And thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully see you tomorrow for email marketing at 12:30 on Friday.